Hello people! Today I'm going to share with you my top 10 choices for the anime sequels that we enjoyed in 2023. I'm using MyAnimeList to get the details for each anime, so I'm using their classification system for everything about them. I'm going to be drawing some of the characters of the anime mentioned in my style, so be sure to check out later the real style of each anime in MyAnimeList. Let's begin! Number 10. In number 10 we have Tate no Yusha no Nariagari Season 3. Perhaps for many, this anime was boring after the initial controversy, but I found it to be very entertaining. This action-adventure anime keeps moving forward, finding new allies and enemies, and also discovering more about the world the summoned hero finds himself in. Yes, this is another isekai, so that is perhaps another reason it has some hate. The season has a 7.13 score on MAL, and I gave it a solid 7, so yeah, I still find it fun to watch. Number 9. Here we have Ishirinaide Nagatoro-san Second Attack. The rom-com follows basically the same dynamic from the first season, and perhaps becomes a bit more ecchi, with the president of the art club being very loose on how much clothes she wears. Perhaps some found Nagatoro to be much of a bully in the first season, and perhaps others found the anime to make very little progress, and both are true, so you might not want to continue watching this one. It still has a 7.49 score on MAL, and I gave it a 7, since I find some situations funny and enjoyable, and although it is very slow, you do see some plot development. I never read the manga, so perhaps if you did, you can tell me it will never really get to where it should, so warn me in the comments please. Number 8. Now for number 8 I have Spy Kyoshitsu second season. This is maybe weird because the first season was released during the same year, so perhaps this was more of a 24 episode anime being released every other season, but okay, this is the way MAL classified it. The first season was a bit slow, but I found the second one to be much better. It has interesting characters that I think are introduced in depth, so you can understand and empathize with each of them. It has a 7.16 score on MAL, and I gave it an 8. But perhaps I would have given a 7 for the first season. Number 7. Moving to number 7, we find Season 4 of Danmachi. The real title is too long to read. This basically follows the same dynamic as previous seasons, with Belle Cranel becoming stronger and defeating new enemies, although in this season we see much more of the backstory of other characters, so it was very entertaining. This season was divided in 2 parts, so this is actually the second part of the season that originally came out in 2022, so perhaps this should be classified in that year, I don't know. Curiously, this part has a 8.23 score in MAL, while the first part had a 7.74 score. I gave it an 8 out of 10, although I must say I liked the third season much more than any other season of this anime. What do you think? Number 6. Now I have Dr. Stone New World, and this continues to be really good in my opinion. Perhaps we entered much more deep into a fantasy anime, much more than a sci-fi one as it is classified in MAL, but I still like it. The plot definitely moves forward, and we get closer and closer to discovering what was the cause of the cataclysmic event that began the story, while also experience very interesting stories and learn some new fun science facts. It has a score of 8.15 on MAL, and I gave it an 8. So I really recommend to keep watching this one. Number 5. This is for me one of the funniest animes I've seen. Kyuketsuki Tsugushinu 2, best known as The Vampire Dies in No Time Season 2. Yeah, I know the jokes are really basic and simple, but one can't choose what we find funny. This anime doesn't really have a story, so it is more about having fun with the plot of each episode. I did found the first season to be better and funnier, since it was all new, but this one still made me laugh a lot. It has a score of 7.45 in MAL, and I gave it an 8. And this is still not a show for beginners, since many jokes are of sexual nature, and there are a lot of very perverted characters, like the vampire that wants to make everyone wear a micro bikini, or the one that plays a strip game to see everyone naked. So yeah, not for everyone. Number 4. Almost in the top 3 now, we find Kyoko Suri Season 2. I enjoyed Season 1, and this one I think is also interesting. This supernatural mystery show continues with more cases to solve, being the first one the most entertaining for me. I didn't like the last case presented, since the deductions and assumptions made were horrible, and I didn't like the way the main characters behaved, but overall the show was okay. The show scored a 7.35 in MAL, and I gave it an 8 nonetheless. I don't really know if this anime is okay for beginners, since it has a lot of dirty jokes that might sound weird. I don't know. What do you think? Number 3. Here I place the second season of Jujutsu Kaisen. This action anime continues to shine, and the visuals and voice acting here are again amazing. In this season we learn a bit more about the past of Gojo and Geto, and then continue where we left off in the previous season. There are also some topics to really think about, like the motivations of Geto and the psychological impact that Sukuna's possession has on Itadori's mind. There are also some very emotional moments and amazing battle scenes, so bad that MAPPA is known for inhuman company practices like most companies in Japan and in the world. This season has an 8.85 score on MAL, and I give it an 8. I am up to date with the manga, so I am really looking forward for the next season. A tip here is that you can read the manga in the official app for free. It is called Manga Plus and has a lot of manga to read for free, so if you haven't, I really recommend you check it out. Number 2. Almost at the top of this ranking we have Kimetsu no Yaiba, Katanakashi no Satohen. This sequel of the fantasy anime finds Tanjiro going alone to the swordsmith village and fighting new demons along with 2 pillars of the demon hunter army. The animation is a 10 and the stories are interesting and entertaining. One thing I must say the show has been losing along the way is that in the very first season you could really empathize with the villains. They were very complex characters with a backstory that made you feel bad for them. But in recent seasons, it seems that the villains don't have anything going for them except being evil. We are looking at the top of the demon army, so I think this can be justified and explained by that fact. But it was a characteristic of the show that I really loved. Anyway, this season has an 8.85 score on MAL and I give it a 9. I guess the show will end in 2 or 3 seasons, so let's enjoy it while it lasts. Number 1. And for the top of this ranking, and perhaps many rankings, we have the second season of Vinland Saga. This one is a masterpiece on itself. It is a very philosophical anime, making you think about concepts like freedom, love, war and happiness. Even if this were to be the last season of this anime, it has a really good ending. By the way, it is not the end of the story and the manga continues a lot more, but I say that even if it ends with this season, I would still say the anime is one of the best of all time. It has much less action and gore than the first season, but it still has its decent amount of fights and violence if that is what you like the most. The season has an 8.81 score on MyAnimeList and I gave it a well-deserved 10. This is a must-watch for everyone. So that is all for this video. What are your top picks? How much do you hate my choices? I will read you in the comments. If you want me to keep doing these videos, don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and feel free to support me on Patreon too. See you next time!